Johnny Sack pleaded guilty. It was just on the radio.
Yeah, the swing from wish I'd thrown acid in his face to toasting Johnny Sack's memory looks wild on the surface, but it makes perfect sense in that world.
Mr. Sacramone, during the time period beginning approximately January 1st, 1996...
Phil was angling for the throne, so he had to posture, condemn Johnny for pleading out, thump the never acknowledge LCN line, and play the hardliner. And honestly, after 20 years of keeping his mouth shut...
Johnny Sack pleaded guilty. It was just on the radio.
Yeah, the guy probably was genuinely disgusted, in that Phil way. The rest of them, classic face saving. But pleading guilty isn't the same sin as flipping. Admitting the existence of LCN in the mid-2000s is a technical foul, not a mortal one. Appalachian had blown that secret to bits half a century earlier. What mattered was that Johnny didn't sell out Phil, Tony, or anyone else when he easily could have for a lighter bid.
The feds just hit Johnny Sack.
Tons of guys were turning state's evidence by then. He didn't. That's why Ginny wasn't ostracized like Angie was after Pussy ratted.
We'll take it up with Pussy. If you can find a fat fuck, wherever the feds put him.
Betrayal stains the whole family. A plea doesn't. So the social club photo, the condolences at Cleaver, the drink in his honor after he died, those aren't contradictions. They're the ritual closing of ranks around a man who, for all his flaws, kept the code where it counts. Also, sidebar, what possessed you to type shop pussy? I mean, God bless, but that's a linguistic jump scare. How did Tony dodge extramarital pregnancies? The man would have happily fuck a catcher's mitt.
You've had quite a time on my watch. The weightlifter.
He clocked time on Carm's watch. He had Irina, the weightlifter, even a one-legged fling, yet no stork, not even the YO version. He's the strong silent type.
Whatever happened to Gary Cooper, the strong silent type?
Hard to picture Gary Cooper fumbling with a rubber. Easiest answer? His rotten, putrid swimmers stopped working. He was shooting blanks. Or at least that's how it played. And even if they weren't, none of those women were about to have a baby and make Tony pony up for child support. They knew he'd handle it in a way that made the whole problem disappear, permanently.
What, hon?
Who sent you, Tony?
Yeah, he asked me to bring you this.
More likely, he threw money at the problem. Plan B on speed dial, quiet clinic runs, envelopes for complications. He won't sin with a condom, but she can sin with an abortion. Tony logic at its most Catholic. There's my softer headcanon too. After AJ, he was secretly proud, loved Carm in his crooked way, and got a vasectomy to avoid shaming her again. Yeah, but Meadow and AJ exist. Exactly. Timeline still fits. And let's not forget, he did do preparation, like getting Irina tested for AIDS, which tells you he thought about consequences, just not prophylactics. Among mob girlfriends, there's also an unwritten rule.
I don't think I can have kids.
You don't trouble the guys with pregnancies. Tracy literally went to Tony first about an abortion before looping in Ralph, which tells you how that chain of command works. Then there's the Gloria theory. You and your theories, Mr. Webistics over here. But I can see it. The snake house sex scene keeps lingering on a nesting sign like a neon hint. Maybe that was the arc they were cooking up when she was slated to recur. In the end, it's probably a cocktail of fear, cash, logistics.
That one, yeah.
Is she your current Gumar?
No, it was a brief fling kind of thing.
Maybe a snip, maybe blanks. And let's be real, because the show didn't want to go there. Tony Soprano, strong, silent, and reproductively off-screen. Why does Steve Schirripa turn every episode into a symposium on big cocks?
My mistake. Carlo's lipstick was on Vito's cock.
It's always cocks. Living, dead, ranked, and cross-referenced. Like he's compiling a field guide. We get detours into who had the smelliest one, why Dominic Chianese supposedly had the worst, and then the piece de resistance, a 5-minute monologue about his dogs, capped by him dangling his mate's dog in front of the camera as if presenting peer-reviewed canine evidence.
It's my hobby, Janice. Why you gotta belittle it?
Maybe it's his hobby. Fine. No need to belittle it. But he doesn't have to wear the fucking hat while he's at it. After a few episodes, I trained myself to stop listening too closely to the rambling. The pa 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 every 5 minutes. The running blacklist of people who wronged him, either in reality or his imagination.
John Gotti.
At this point, when someone says John Gotti, my brain replies, Steve Schirripa talking about cocks. John Gotti? According to this show's energy, the guy practically drowned in 3 inches of cock. Sigmund Freud over here would have a field day.
See, what they didn't know was once they got Gary Cooper in touch with his feelings.
Anyway, once I stopped paying attention to the shtick, my blood pressure thanked me. Accidental hilarity is why I love The Sopranos.
I'm full of rage, Father.
My favorite is Artie unloading about his rage to Father Phil after visiting Livia. Phil's off on this earnest tangent about justice and the law, all very solemn and high-minded, and then Artie just snaps him back with a brisk, "You're off topic" vibe. The cut, the delivery, the absolute indifference to the priest's advice. It kills me every time. That same deadpan absurdity pops up all over.
Vito Spatafore is an ass muncher.
Chrissy power walking into the Bing after the AA meeting about Vito, with Murmur quietly stealing the scene. The Atlantic City waiter gets killed, and the next day, Polly's biggest takeaway is that one of them could have been hurt. Like, that's the tragedy here.
She was having a 90-pound mole.
Carmine's frozen, baffled face when Johnny Sack relays Ralph's joke says more than a monologue. Livia goes from sobbing to laughing as Tony tumbles down the steps. Uncle Junior adds nothing at the Lorraine and Angelo sit-down, except random digs at Tony, like he's there to heckle. After Phil Leotardo gets clipped, some guy in the background yelps, "Oh shit," while Phil wobbles, and it lands like a punchline to a nightmare.
He sat on it while he was high.
Then there's Chrissy's intervention. It starts with soothing, "no one's attacking you" energy, and ends in a pile-on, with Polly and Sil tossing in their own uniquely supportive wisdom. Tony B's wild forensic theory about the marks Adriana would have in that crash, only for the doctor to ask if he's a physician, pure unearned confidence. Jojo Palmise mourning Mikey on TV, even though their last exchange was her flipping him off and him telling her to take a Midol. Bacala's entire Season 2 introduction is gentle, bumbling comedy gold. Paulie, meanwhile, has zero patience for compassion. His "I see you with arrows" bit is savage and hilarious in how blunt it is. I crack up at Patsy's jumpy flinch when Tony smacks him on the head after the Columbus Day fiasco. Gloria hurling a 2-pound steak at Tony, and then the casual, "he smells like steak" tag, chef's kiss.
He's not a bad person. He's very religious.
And Ade earnestly telling the FBI that Matouche isn't a terrorist. He runs a boys' school back home. She's genuinely impressed. It's all so serious, even tragic. Yet the show keeps tripping into comedy by letting these characters be exactly who they are. Petty, deluded, tender, ridiculous. And letting the camera catch the laughter where it shouldn't be.
With Paulie in the can, there's a new acting capo of his crew. It's Chrissy.
In No Show, when Christopher gets bumped to acting capo and Tony tears into him over the stolen fiber optic cable, Patsy slides to Sil with the news about the floor tile at the Esplanade. Sil knows the no looting order came straight from Tony, and green lights it anyway. To me, that wasn't just about tile. It was Sil reading the room. Tony didn't care if Patsy felt passed over, but Sil did. He was willing to eat the cost and the heat from Tony to keep a resentful soldier earning rather than stewing under a boss 20 years younger who got the bump because he's family. And yeah, I like it even more because it gave us the timeline got fucked up. It also wasn't only about soothing Patsy. Sil clearly hated the decision itself. Minutes after Chrissy gets the nod, he drops the "wings in my hair" joke that dies on impact.
That's the way certain people want it.
And later mutters, "That's the way certain people wanted it," He felt sidelined, and this was one of the few levers he could pull. A small sting at Tony that wouldn't start a war. Was it smart to loot the site? No. Did it make managerial sense? I think so. Sil managed to placate the guys and bleed off tension without outright undermining the boss. Sometimes, middle management has to toss the crew a bone to keep the peace, even if it costs them, and even if the timeline got a little, fucked up. Does the show ever flat out explain why Tony doesn't just get pets? Not really.
There's these 2 wild ducks landing in my pool.
But it's a running irony. He lights up around animals. The ducks, Pyomai, even that weird post-Bobby cat. And he's shattered by their losses.
My horse died? Pyomai.
Pyomai's death wrecks him. Christopher killing a dog is unforgivable. And the Tippy story, his childhood dog handed off to Feldstein, clearly brands him for life. On paper, the solution seems obvious. Give the man a couple dogs, a cat, maybe a parrot, board a horse or two, and call it therapy.
Since the ducks left.
So why doesn't Melfi drive at that instead of just the loss equals ducks insight? In universe, it tracks that the Soprano household would never actually live with pets. Carmela reads as someone who appreciates order more than fur tumbleweeds. The kids never show much interest either.
It's $3,000. We have a housekeeper 3 days a week.
And Tony works insane hours, meaning the day-to-day would fall on him or the housekeeper. And Tony's whole deal is loving the idea of things without wanting the maintenance. He can throw money at almost any problem, but not at a 3 a.m. bed-puking beagle. Add the museum-quality breakables everywhere, let a dog tail swipe a $3,000 Yadro, forget about it. Plus, Tippy was formative trauma. Ajay even hints they had a dog once. It clearly didn't end well. It's not a mob guys don't have pets rule. Plenty of others in the show do. It's just this family's particular mix of control, schedules, and old wounds. IRL, the answer's even simpler. Animals are a nightmare to film and a continuity landmine. And culturally, there's a real thing, especially among certain Italian-American households, about animals being dirty in the house. Growing up in Chicago, most of my Italian-American friends had 0 pets, and plastic slipcovers on every couch. Their moms would rather scold you for breathing wrong, let alone for bringing a shedding creature inside. That vibe maps cleanly onto Carmela's standards and the Soprano aesthetic. So the show doesn't give a neat, here's why Tony never got a lab speech. But the subtext is loud. He craves the unconditional peace animals represent without wanting or being allowed to live with the mess, responsibility, and risk that come with keeping them. The ducks can visit, the horse can be stabled, the cat can haunt. Permanent pets? That would mean permanent vulnerability, permanent chaos. And in that house, that was never going to fly.
Please, kid's in the hospital. Little fucking sympathy, huh?
Did Paulie or Silvio really care about Meadow, or AJ, or any of the crew's kids? Uncles in name, sure. Maybe Bobby was the lone exception. One of the most chilling, beautifully shot moments for me is Carmela watching Paulie vanish behind those elevator doors during Tony's coma, and in an instant, seeing him not as the jovial family friend, but the predator he actually is.
There were all those guys at Uncle Jackie's funeral.
Tony idolized Jackie Aprile, but when push came to shove, he signed off on taking out both Jackie Jr. and Jackie's brother when the machine demanded it. Yes, he hesitated. You can feel him straining against it in both cases, but he still let the gears turn.
Honestly, how can I short Carmela?
And when Tony woke up, the crew was doing a Mario Andretti to the hospital with that cash they'd never planned to hand over. They didn't care about Tony's family, or, by extension, Tony, because Tony would have wanted his family to have the money. With Jackie Jr., I think Tony genuinely angled for a pass and tried to lean on Ralphie to make it look like Ralphie's mercy, not his. It kept the heat off Tony and outsourced the blowback to the guy whose game it was. But if any of those kids had ever sat down with the feds once they were adults, if the bosses wanted it, Sil would have handled it with near zero hesitation.
He wants to do it.
That's the show's blunt thesis. Their love is so conditional, it barely qualifies as love at all. Sociopaths cosplaying sentiment.
Probably never hear about it, though. Chances are.
Adriana is the case study. Anyone becomes expendable the moment the wholesale airbag business needs protecting.
Hey, Tony, don't do that.
In other words, it's like how most of us feel about our friends' kids. You care, you ask how school's going, but it's mostly small talk. Subscribe.